Today we're going to talk about Haruki Murakami, as well as Naval, and we're going to talk about my experience with a staff engineer from a staff engineer. Like he was at Google, then his company that he went to got acquired, and this is like kind of like the best big scenario and my learnings from that. So let's start with Murakami. So with Murakami, um, I'm not going to get really too deep into his philosophy. I'll probably do that in another video, but I want to adopt his schedule. So his schedule is very reminiscent of one of my friend's schedule, who's a Marine and is currently studying to be a computational physics physicist. And so basically, kind of like do all of your core work in the morning. So he gets up fairly early, gets up like around 4, has his deep work. Um so assume he gets ready and you're in deep work, and then after he does an hour or so, maybe a few hours of deep work, then he'll go and work out. So he goes for a 10-kilometer run, if I'm not mistaken, and then from that, he does all the things he needs to do. So I think around like 2:30, 3 o'clock, the rest of the day is his, and I think he goes to bed around 8 a.m. So I want to optimize my life for that, just because, um, this particular season is grind season. I want to actualize like everything that's in my head right now. Okay, so let's talk about Naval. So Naval, some of you are probably familiar with him, and I'll try to put some, references to these people that I'm talking about. But he talks about like leveraging, like digital media and streams of income. So it's like media code, like YouTube and shit like that. And so like that's why I'm doing this now. At first, I really thought, the whole social media thing was like super corny. Um, but like reflecting on my life, I think, eh, I think because I think things are corny, it prevents me from actually pursuing things, and I just want to get that. That's a bad mindset, like let's just do it. If it's corny, it's corny. Like whatever the fuck. Um, so I'm gonna start doing that, talking about my experiences. 'Cause I think I have a nice network of really really smart, talented people, like some of the best in the world, and I'm truly blessed to have them in very close proximity. And so I want to share like that experience with my friends, and other people online, to see if like if it'll help you on your journey. And just the way that this economy is set up too. Like I mean, you have to have your own personal brand. You have to have like your own business, and like you only can go so far with just like one stream of income. So like diversifying those streams of income, providing value is really good. And have some projects. Like I feel like I have that code part down. That's what I do for a living. So I'm trying to do this YouTube thing, um, and social media thing, but like I guess in a way where I can invite you into my world and what's happening on inside my head, to the best of my ability. So we touched upon Naval. So let's get into the meat and potatoes. So it's my experience with um, the staff engineer of a company that recently got acquired, and I'm just gonna like I won't go into details. I think I'll get permission. I'm gonna get permission from them before I go into details on like names and the company that's got acquired and all this other stuff. But like right now, AI is like a hot topic in big tech and business and everything like that. And I had the opportunity to talk to a very prominent figure in the tech industry, and his experience like going from big tech to going to something like a startup. Um and so like he and some of the questions that I asked him, so like the first thing that I asked was like like going from big tech to startup culture, like that's a drastic shift, especially for like your cash. But basically what I got from his message is like you want to live, obviously you want to live under your means, and people say that, right? But like people like go live under your means, and like this is a guy that could pull up in a Porsche, pull up in a Lambo, like like he's serious stuff. And he doesn't do that, and he would rather have freedom. And we hear about this. We hear about this with Rich Dad Poor Dad. We hear about this with, a whole bunch of like other money gurus, like that Alex guy, or Alex Ramonzi or whatever, right? But like, very few people like actually live it, and very few people like really understand like how powerful that is. Because we all talk about fucking money, but it's like he and his wife have set up a foundation for themselves where they live a decent life, their bills are covered, and now it's he's following his passions, they're following their passions. You can say yes or you can say no to whatever projects. You're not bound by one company, and that's something that I want to do myself. As I climb the corporate ladder, as I climb the tax bracket, life scope gets in the way. It really does. And I try to be above it, but like it's hard because it's like other people want to spend your money. Other people have expectations for you and what you should be doing with your money. But like honestly, like you should just do whatever you want to do. And people say that, but it's hard to do. Like really get those preconceived notions out of your head and just do whatever you want to do because in the long run you'll be a lot more free, and doing the projects that bring you happiness. Um, and so he can do whatever. So he was at a big tech company and he was making pretty decent cash and he was just like living in my means. I saved up my income, and at this point in his career, it's not really about the cash; it's about that project. So what I took away from that is like I love cars. I love cars. Like I love any car, not just like fancy cars. But what I took from that is just like be hyper vigilant, especially in this economy, with how I'm spending my money, how I'm spending my time, um, and not to be afraid because like fear will stop you from progression. Um, and so he was telling me about just like how they position themselves within this whole AI gold rush and stuff like that. And another thing that I took from him is be sticky. If you want to make money in this big tech game, be sticky. Meaning like your product or whatever you're offering, like should be an integral part to the infrastructure of the company or the buyer or your client or whatever, right? That needs to be sticky. It shouldn't just be, a one and done thing. It should be something that is like, is the paste, is the building block to their success. And at that point, it's not just like a one and done thing. It's you are growing within their company and with their company, and I think that is it's a very high level, nuance um, thing to really understand. And I'll make another video, really going diving deep into these topics. But I just wanted to get something out there. I just wanted to get something out and talk to you about my experience to just do it. And that's another thing that I learned. It's just do it. It's one of his advice. His advice was to just go and do it and create. And when you create, show your work, and other people will notice that. And you have your own expertise that you can bring to the table. Um, so don't count yourself out. Uh, it is really one real big thing that I took from it as well. Um, and like I think as far as like with the money topic and stuff like that is like this is true freedom. Like I've have coworker, I've had experience with coworkers and people in my life that are making pretty decent cash, relatively, and they're still paycheck to paycheck because like they aren't taking into account how much is coming in versus how much is coming out. And it's like they want to look the part. And I understand, like, we want to look the part. Like, we want to go to those nice holidays and vacations and stuff like that. Like, we want that nice BMW and all that other jazz. But, like, I don't, I care. I'm not going to tell you that I don't care. But I care for myself, my own personal brand, and my own aesthetic. But, like, what I care more about is my own personal autonomy and, like, my impact. Like, this guy that I'm talking about has a real impact, like, he makes shit happen that influences, the rest of the world, and he's able to just go anywhere. And because he invested in himself, because he invested in his own projects, that money in which he's making more money not caring about money than we are caring about money, fixating on money than like he's making more money than we are because he's not fixating on it. He's fixated on his own craft. He's fixated on himself. And that's true wealth. It's true wealth. But yeah, so these are some of my findings. Something quick, something brief. Um, if you want me to talk about something in particular, feel free to comment below and I will do that. Peace.